Republic Act No. 9993, an act establishing the Philippines Coast Guard as an armed and uniformed service attaches to the Department of Transportation and Communications, thereby repealing Republic Act No. 5173 as amended and for other purposes. This act shall be known as the Philippines Coast Guard Law of 2009. Second is the establishment. Ginawa daw po yung PCG as an armed and uniformed services na na-attach sa Department of Land Transportation, and dineclare po ng Congress na in a times of war na kailangan nandun po sila at all cost, and kailangan po nilang sa Department of National Defense. Section 3, Powers and Functions. The PCG shall have the following powers and function. May mga iba't iba po silang powers and function na kailangan nilang tuparin ang kanilang mga tungkulin para masaayos po yung karagatan natin at magkaroon po tayo ng peace and order sa ating mga karagatan dito sa Pilipinas. Section 4, Gender Sensitivity Program. Dito po napapaloob na if ever po na lesbian yung papasok sa PCG or gay, hindi po nila pwedeng basta-basta na lang na i-declare na hindi niya kayang lumayo, hindi niya kayang protektahan yung Pilipinas pagdating sa karagatan. So, kailangan po natin maging pantay-pantay pagdating sa mga work po natin. Section 5, the PCG Commandant. Ito naman po is, yung PCG daw po is hine-head by the commandant na siya po yung humahawak ng rank ng Coast Guard Admiral na gina-appoint po ng ating presidente among the flag officers in the Coast Guard Service. Kailangan din po na bago ka maging commandant may na-hold ka na sea badge and nag-serve ka na po as a district commander of the PCG and nag-maximum term of 3 years ka na po bilang commandant. The Section 6 is Organization. The PCG shall consist of the following categories of officers and employees. Ito po yung mga bumubuo ng PCG, the PCG officers, PCG non-officers, PCG non-uniform personnel, probationary ensign, and cadets and cadettes. The Section 7 naman po is the officer rank distribution. Dito naman po mapapaloob kung ilang percent ka na po bilang isang Coast Guard para magkaroon ka po ng mga position sa Coast Guard o kaya Coast Guard Admiral kung ilang percent na po yung naano mo sa pagiging Coast Guard. Section 8, Distribution of Flag Officers. Distribution of flag officers. The number of flag officers herein authorized shall be distributed to the various flag officer ranks in accordance with the schedule as hereunder prescribed. Coast Guard Admiral 1, Coast Guard Vice Admiral 1, Coast Guard Rear Admiral 5, Coast Guard Commodore is 15, and the total po is 20. The Section 9 is Maximum Tenure in Rank. Maximum tenure in rank is the maximum tenure of officers in the rank of captain and flag officers in the PCG are hereby prescribed as follows. Rank: Coast Guard Admiral, Coast Guard Vice Admiral, Coast Guard Rear Admiral, Coast Guard Commodore, and Coast Guard Captain. The Coast Guard Admiral is the maximum tenure is 3 years. The Coast Guard Vice Admiral is 3 years. The Coast Guard Rear Admiral is 3 years, the Coast Guard Commodore is 5 years, and the Coast Guard Captain is 7 years. Section 10, Maximum Tenure in Position. Maximum tenure in position. Officer holding the following key positions are hereby limited a maximum tenure of 3 years unless otherwise earlier relieved by competent authority or compulsory retired under existing laws. Coast Guard Commandant, Coast Guard Deputy Commandant, and Coast Guard District Commander. Dito po yung mga 3 years na pong nakapag-serbisyo sa Coast Guard. Ganito po yung magiging position nila. Section 11, Organization of a PCG Auxiliary. Yung PCG daw po kailangan nila mag-continue para ma-maintain and ma-supervise po nila yung pagde-develop ng mga training ng PCG as a civilian volunteer. Yung PCG din po is nag-a-assist ng mga PCG promotion of safety of life and property at sea. Sila din po yung nag-implement ng mga rescue and the maintenance of aids to navigation and such other activities that enhance maritime community relations, which include civic action, participation under the National Service Training Program, youth development, recreational safety, and other related activities. Section 12, Appointments. Yung nag-a-appoint po ng mga PCG officer natin is the Secretary of the DOTC. Wala po daw pong na-appoint na person na hindi daw po siya natural born citizen of the Philippines and hindi po siya 21 years old and above. Section 13, Promotion. Pinopromote daw po yung mga PCG officers is submitted by the PCG Officers Selection and Promotion Board shall be recommended by the PCG Commandant for the approval of the Secretary of the DOTC. Section 14, Salaries and Other Benefits. Yung PCG daw po ay kailangan ma-receive din po yung mga same basic payments na mga maritime, mga nasa other law enforcement po. Section 15, Active Service. For purposes of this act, the active service of PCG personnel hereof shall refer to services rendered as an officer, non-officer, probationary ensign, or those rendered as a civilian official or employee in the PCG prior to the date of separation or retirement from the PCG, provided that the term active service shall include confirmed services rendered as a civilian. Section 16, Disciplinary Action. The applicable and pertinent provisions of the EFP Military Justice System shall be adopted in disciplinary cases against PCG officers and non-officers. The applicable rules, regulations, and guidelines promulgated by the Civil Service Commission shall govern cases against PCG and non-uniformed employees. Section 17, Retirement. Upon attaining 56 years of age or upon accumulation of 30 years of continuous satisfactory active service, whichever comes later, a PCG officer or non-officer shall be compulsorily retired, provided that said officer or non-official have a maximum of 20 years of active service. The retirement of non-uniformed personnel shall be governed by civil service laws, rules, and regulations. 18, Retirement Benefits. May nakukuha po silang retirement pay based po sa pagiging active service nila kung ilang years po, and doon naman po sa mga non-uniform personnel is gino-govern po siya sa civil service government or civil insurance system. Doon po nila makukuha yung retirement fee po nila. Section 19, Separation from Service. Yung mga officer and non-officers daw po na nag-voluntary resign is magko-comply po ng standards of competence and propriety of the PCG shall be separated from the service under existing laws, rules, and regulations. The separation of non-uniform personnel shall be in accordance with civil service laws, rules, and regulations. Section 20, Collection of Revenues. The PCG shall collect fees, dues, charges, and fines relevant to the exercise of its various functions. Kailangan din po nilang manlingil ng mga natikitan po nilang mga ship or vessels na nagkakandak po ng mga illegal activities sa ating karagatan. Section 21, Rules and Regulation. The Secretary of the DOTC shall issue rules and regulations to determine or fix prescribed charges, rates, penalties, and pertinent. Kailangan yung secretary po ng DOST is naglalagay po ng mga rules and regulation na yun po yung bilang magiging daan ng mga PCG para malaman po nila if yung mga ship na dumadaong sa atin is nakakapag-commit na po ng mga rules and regulations. Section 22, PCG Properties and Lighthouse Reservations. The PCG shall continue to exercise exclusive ownership, possessions, control, and supervision all over the properties transferred to it by virtue of Executive Number 475 dated 30 March 1990 and Executive Number 477 dated 15 April 1998. Kailangan daw po nilang magkaroon ng mag-exercise po ng mga exclusive ownership and suspension, and kailangan po nilang i-control yung mga yon under the PCG. Section 23, the establishment and expansion of Coast Guard bases and facilities. In accordance with other appropriate government agencies, the PCG shall develop and enhance its capabilities in the performance of its mandated function and establishment its strategic presence. The Section 24 is Appropriations. The Secretary of the DOTC shall immediately prepare the necessary guidelines to cover the establishment of the PCG as an attached agency to the DOTC, the initial funding of which shall be charged against the current year's appropriations of the PCG and thereafter in the Annual General Appropriations Act. Section 25 is the transitory provisions. All previous appointments and promotion of PCG uniform personnel made prior to the enactment of this act shall remain valid and subsisting. Section 26. Separability Clause. If for any reason, any provision of this act is declared unconstitutional or invalid, such part not affected thereby shall remain in full force and effect. Section 27. Repealing Clause. All laws, decrees, executive orders, rules, and regulations, and other issuance or parts thereof which are inconsistent with this act are hereby repealed, amended, or modified accordingly. And lastly, the Section 28. Effectivity. This act shall take effect 15 days after its publication in the official gazette or any two newspapers of general circulations.